Hi there, my name's Nate Adams with Energy Smart Home Performance. You probably know me as Nate the House Whisperer at this point. And Sean from Redwood asked me to do a couple of videos for you all on selling heat pumps. And just to show you the project so you know that these are real, this is the first gas meter removal we did back in 2014. This is a house that actually got converted into classrooms for a local college. And then a 1918 house, got a 3-ton heat pump, runs this house great. 1900 house, 2-ton heat pump right in Cleveland. This was a Habitat project, 1890. Now, a couple things to point out. You're typically going to hear that heat pumps don't work very well in cold climates. Cleveland's a cold climate. We're not crazy cold. It's climate zone 5. It's the first of the cold climates. But, you know, we'll spend a month below freezing fairly often in wintertime. The other thing is you'll hear that heat pumps don't work in older homes. Note that the first 4 electrifications we did, where we actually pulled off the gas meters, these are all century homes. So it can be done. Now these ones did need some shell work, and in California you may not need to do nearly as much shell work to make heat pumps work really well. Then we started moving to newer houses. Again, like I used to tell my guys when I was doing insulation contracting, I don't find the houses find me. So there was a ranch that we did. Same client, she ended up going net zero with this house. And note this one, this is almost 3,000 square feet and it runs on a 3-ton. We'll touch on that a little later. Here is another split level. This house has now been completely redone, so it runs great on a 3-ton. Here's a new house that we helped out with. Here's the ironic thing. They have a gas stove and a gas fireplace, but that's it. But the energy costs on this house are lower than what was modeled. So it can definitely be done. We put a 4-ton on this one because we were trying out a new model and we didn't trust it yet. Now that we know how that one performs, a 3 would have been fine for this house. Here's a little ranch. This is the one with a gas meter in the first picture. 2-ton heat pump on that. 2-ton on this condo, which turned out to be fairly drastically oversized by monitoring with the Sense Energy monitor. Here's a 1960s house. The 4th window on the left there, that is an addition. So we changed the HVAC and added a bunch of ducts and did a duct design as part of that. And then we've done a couple of other fuel conversions. So we've done an oil tank, propane furnace, and oddly enough, a corn furnace. That's the storage container for the corn kernels. So this can be done. Now all of these have longer stories than what you're typically going to need to do as part of an electrification in California. But there's a fair amount of work and planning that should go in up front. But if you do that and you can get paid for it, this can be fun and satisfying for everyone, and you can sell bigger jobs that are more fun for you too. And we're going to keep coming back to this. So we've come down to there are 2 main rules about Heat Pump Fight Club. The first rule is we don't talk about heat pumps, so don't dive into the technical details with people. Most people just don't care. This is the key. Right-sized variable speed heat pumps just happen to be the best solution because comfort. It will probably solve a huge chunk of the issues that your clients have in their homes simply by right-sizing and putting in variable speed equipment. We'll come back to that. Let's talk about actually selling heat pumps, which is ironically best done by not selling at all. For starters, you want to educate. And second, we want to ask a whole bunch of questions. Most consumers think that HVAC is a commodity. They may understand there's different sizes, but they usually don't understand that there's different types, like single stage, 2-stage, and variable speed. And they definitely don't understand what the benefits of those are. And if they don't, you're not going to sell it to them because they're going to look at the cost difference and say, well, why should I do that? So you want to get them up to speed. This guide here compares the HVAC in a car to the HVAC in a house. And houses come up severely lacking, which may surprise you, will definitely surprise them, and makes them much more likely to purchase better HVAC, which is oftentimes going to put them into right-sized variable speed heat pumps without ever really even having to say heat pump. So what this goes over is what we've come to call the 6 functions of HVAC. So every HVAC system should be capable of doing all 6 of these. So there's load matching, filtration, dehumidification, fresh air, mixing, which is what I call the right place at the right time now, and humidification. Every system needs to do this. So every car since about 1990, so every car that's had air conditioning, can do 5 out of 6 of these, every single one. So load matching, we already touched on this. This is basically the shower and the bucket analogy. So on the left is the shower, that's your car. You can dial in just as much heat or just as much cool as you need. Where your house is the bucket. It's, do you want to turn it on or do you want to turn it off? There's no in the middle. It's, do you want 80,000 BTUs on or do you want 80,000 BTUs off? Do you want 3 tons of cooling on or 3 tons of cooling off? Both of which are too much for the house probably all the time, and definitely at least 98 or 99% of the time. So it's very important to be able to do load matching. And again, there's the analogy. Second thing is filtration. Every car has a cabin air filter now. And it's important to have very good filtration, especially as we're seeing increased wildfires, and it's also looking quite important for COVID-19 risk reduction. Every car has dedicated dehumidification, looks distinctly like the air conditioner button. Every car has fresh air. Every car has mixing. So in this case, it's aiming it where you want it. Mixing is the easiest way to think of it is it's like stirring a vinaigrette. So if you have rooms in a house that are running a little bit different temperature-wise, if you just run the fan and you stir the house, oftentimes you can blunt or even eliminate those differences, particularly if you can trickle in a little bit of heat or a little bit of cool. The only thing cars don't do is humidification. So again, there's the 6 functions. And that is what every HVAC system should be able to do. And you can bring all of that up and help clients understand that right-sized variable speed equipment is what they need, which just happens to be a heat pump. And then you don't have to talk directly about heat pumps, because again, most people don't care. These are the 3 things that you want to figure out next, which is what are their goals, what bothers them about their house, what does their house need in order to achieve those goals, and what is their budget for achieving those goals. Because sometimes they're going to have champagne taste on a beer budget, and you want to understand that. So figuring out the budget is mainly about the value. What is it worth to reach the goals? Not so much what will it cost. And if you can get those 3 things figured out, you've got an idea of whether they have a viable project or not, and you can offer them different options to get there. And how do you get to all this? You ask them a lot of questions. So we've come to really like this phrase, asking questions is usually the answer. So their goals are going to come in 4 different categories. So there's comfort, which is little Johnny's room is too cold in the wintertime, or the addition is too hot in the summer, or the family room, or whatever it might be. Or a common one we've had in the last couple of years, which is that the master bedroom is too warm to sleep in the summertime. So the husband usually ends up sleeping on the couch to be comfortable. Number 2 is health and safety, so that's asthma and allergy problems usually. Number 3 is durability, that's usually moisture problems or bug problems. And number 4 is efficiency. Those are the 4 categories. So the first 3, those actually sell stuff. They're worth real money to solve. And if they're not, which we'll dig into when you figure out goals, you're going to have people rank how important they are. You're going to figure all that out. But those 3 are really good for helping people understand the value in bumping up in quality of HVAC equipment. And again, if you can help them understand the sizing, so right-sized variable speed equipment, that's naturally going to land you in a heat pump without actually talking about heat pumps. Now the 4th one, efficiency, this does not sell. As soon as you mention efficiency, you're going to get the hated question of what's the payback? There is no payback. We do pretty advanced projects in Cleveland. The paybacks on our projects are usually between 50 and 500 years. We had one that came in at 997 and it executed because it was worth achieving these goals to the homeowner. That is the curse of efficiency. It's one of the only things that actually saves some money. So it enters in, nobody cares about countertops. Do granite countertops pay back? I don't know. I want a nice kitchen. And so people want nice houses. So help them understand what they actually want. So you start off by asking what their goals are, and then you want to prioritize those. You want to have them rank all of their goals, and you want them to be as emotional as possible, like I can't sleep with my wife in the summertime, and have them rank them on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being not a problem and 10 being fix it now. And if you do that, you really begin to figure out what's going on and what's important to them. Because sometimes budget's always going to be limited to some extent, but based on budget, you may be able to deal with a couple things, but not with some other stuff. And you want to understand what's most important. Also, some stuff's an annoyance and people are just whining. So if they talk a lot about something and then give it a 2, they're whining. That's not actually a problem. That's an annoyance. And either they need to stew in that problem for a while until it becomes a bigger issue, or they need to stop whining. Either one of those options is fine. But if nothing else, you know whether it's a problem or not. So next up, you need to understand what the house needs. And these are the tests that are really best for doing this. So blower door test to test the air leakage of the house. We're going to come back to air leakage because that's the biggest piece of sizing HVAC correctly. You want to run an infrared scan if at all possible. Do zonal diagnostics, see which rooms leak more than others. Test the external static pressure of the system to see if it can handle the new system. I mean, if it's already running an inch of static, if you're putting in a new piece of equipment with an ECM motor and the old one has PSC, that motor might die in 2 years. You want to know that up front and let the clients know so that they aren't upset at you later. And then there could be some other tests you want to do too. But when you have your head wrapped around those things, you can help clients understand the odds of success. So if they're only going to change the HVAC, which is going to be very common, we're seeing this even in Cleveland, about half of houses can simply swap a furnace out for a heat pump and be done, move on with life. But if they use crummy single stage stuff, probably is not going to help anything because, again, it's going to be banging on and banging off. Their mean radiant temperature is not going to be good. They're not going to be comfortable. So you let them know, well, we can do that, but the odds aren't real high. And if they choose that and they saw this, who owns the responsibility for that decision? It's not you anymore. It's them. Very critical. You want to transfer responsibility whenever possible. We call it responsibly avoiding responsibility. Don't get hung for something that you can't control. All right, then you can help them understand, like this is for instance, this is what we call our Testy McNormal Face report. It's a pretty standard thing that we see, which is a 2-story house that's a little bit leaky, but not bad, and where HVAC can likely fix a big chunk of the problems. So if they put in the right size variable speed piece of equipment, it's likely going to help their things a lot. But again, you're seeing 60 to 80% odds. So pretty good odds, but it's not 100%. So you still don't own all of that. And then some houses, they're just going to need more work to get there. They're going to need more of a full energy audit and a full workup. And so you want to give them that option. And once the goals are prioritized and you know what the house needs, then you can ask what they are worth to solve. So again, this is a value thing. The best question we found is, if you were renting this house, how much more would you pay a month in rents to make those problems go away? $100 a month works out to $14,000 over 15 years with 4% interest. So that's the kind of thing that we're looking at. So at $100 a month, there's usually something you can do for someone. And if they only tell you 25, again, they're whining. So it's very helpful to understand what the constraint is there. And again, this is value. This is not cost. So what it costs to fix something could be very different than what the value is. And you want to understand that up front. And then you can also let them know with different budgets what the odds of success are. So this is kind of tied to the other options that I showed earlier. So $70 a month, that's single stage equipment, not very likely. $100 a month, that'll buy a variable speed piece of equipment, or at least it will out east where I live, maybe not in California, but $100 a month gives you pretty good odds. And then if they really want to go deep, they're going to have to cough up some real money. So $300 a month. You give them an idea of what it's going to take to do stuff, and you can collect enough information to have a pretty good gut on this. Is it perfect? No, but there is no perfection. Homes are very, very complicated, interconnected systems. And they're systems of systems, really. So all you can do is do your best. So that's why we think in odds of success, we never give guarantees. We never let anybody know that there is certainty of something, because there isn't. It's just odds. So if you do a good job fleshing out this Venn, you're going to find that clients are much more likely to spend more than what they would have otherwise. So we're seeing closing ratios in the 70 to 80% range, and 50% bumps in average tickets. So from the $10,000 range up to the $15,000 or even $20,000 range. This is a good thing.